Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there, so please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money, so check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks. Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try and make your world a little weirder. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Niall, and I'm here this week to talk to you about the greatest joy in life, which is cookies.
Oh, yeah.
I've become a bit of a cookie fiend. It's a big thing where sometimes if I'm having so Jules goes and works and everything and sometimes I'll have a bad day at work, and she works right next to a grocery store. So sometimes she'll just stop and pick up like a thing of cookies, and it's like the best thing. But then she also made some cookies.
I was going to say Jules is a master baker in her own right.
It's true.
I've sampled.
Yeah, I randomly asked for chocolate cookies with white chocolate chips, just arbitrarily, and she made them this weekend. It was fantastic.
That's amazing. It's a great week for food, Niall, because it's the time of Thanksgiving. It's that blessed holiday, Thanksgiving, where we celebrate the life of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. When he brought the pilgrims, he came down on the pilgrims and he was like, y'all eating gruel and fucking maize down here? I'll do you one better. And he turned all that shit into a turkey. A well-seasoned turkey filled with stuffing.
Full stuffing and gravy. Yeah, It was, as we all know. And the first cranberry sauce was his blood.
That's right. He said, "Eat of my flesh," and he gestured to the turkey. And drink of my blood, and he gestured to the cranberry sauce.
And it kind of jiggled and like a... Yeah. It had those dead or alive beach volleyball physics.
And I don't want to say that, like, we only celebrate Jesus Christ on Thanksgiving. We should be celebrating him every day, I think. But Thanksgiving especially so, for the miracle performed that day. No, I'm very excited. I'm actually going to be baking cookies this week myself, and I've been getting okay, you tell me, should I feel guilty about this? Because I do. I already do. But you can tell me if I can let it go.
Okay. I'll see if I can absolve you of this guilt.
And that, Niall, that would be very Christ-like of you if you did. So my former roommate, Elliot, who's been on the bonus show Internet Experience Deluxe on our Patreon from a while back, really great friend of mine, we're close. He has a cookie recipe that I just took and like very slightly altered. And this is about to sound like I'm bragging, but I keep making those cookies and bringing them to events, and people are like going ape shit about it. Like, Kyle, your cookies are incredible. I usually tell people, like, look, you got to understand, this is my friend's recipe for cookies. I'm just making it. But
sometimes you don't clarify, and you
sometimes
just, like,
I
bask
don't.
in it.
Sometimes I just let it wash over me because it makes me really happy. But I do sometimes make a point to be like, this is an Elliot original. And then I said to Elliot, I think I told him one time, like, I try to credit you with the cookies. And then I think Elliot says to me, it's just a Toll House recipe.
Yeah.
So maybe I shouldn't feel that bad for it. But I feel guilty because, like, the family for Thanksgiving expects my cookies.
When you were making them with that, whenever like you were taking from the Elliot's recipe, was his recipe on the back of a bag of Toll House morsels?
No, he wrote it down. And he has like a little recipe book, but it's, here's the actual secret to making good cookies. If you already know how to make a chocolate chip cookie, the actual secret is literally just brown butter and a little sprinkling of sea salt on top. That's all you actually have to do. That's the trick. Like that's the best chocolate chip cookie you can make, pretty much. And I'm with you. Cookies are one of the best foods, top tier food group.
It's very much up there. What's wild is because my birthday is very soon after Thanksgiving, so Jules and I are at once planning what we're gonna make for Thanksgiving, and then she was like, "So what do you want for your birthday?" And I'm like, "That's like." I feel like I can only really plan one food thing at a time because, like,
sure.
How burnt out on certain things will I be after Thanksgiving compared to my birthday just a couple days later? Because sometimes I have a wider net between those two. Like some years Thanksgiving falls a little earlier. This year it's very late, so I'm trying to process, like I'm trying to look past Thanksgiving a little bit.
Just, yeah. See if you
can
can
figure out what I'm doing elsewhere, and it is a little difficult. I will say
it's a bit difficult to see past the horizon of meals. That's for sure. Although it would be really funny if when she says to you, "What do you want to eat for your birthday?" you just say, "Bechamel."
Sure. Yeah. Just a big old
just
bowl
like a
of
just
bechamel.
a big bowl of bechamel. That could be a funny thing you could tell her.
And you better not let that roux get brown at all. It's got to be white.
Well, if you can't actually make up your mind, I've found the best thing to do is to say something that's total bullshit to get a laugh. That's kind of the operational strategy here. Well, I think when this episode goes up, it'll be past Thanksgiving time for everybody. But I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving because we're excited for it.
Yeah.
And speaking of eating good. We have a little email. Here. This is from Noah, who says, regarding latest episode, quote, knocks my tits clean off. And they say, possibly where y'all got the phrase, and it's a screenshot of a Tumblr post, I believe, of a user named Thyrell. And the post just says, "Hi, Margaret. I hope this email blows your tits clean off." So, hey, Noah, very distinct possibility that this is something that I saw and it just crept into my brain and never left. Very, very likely. So thank you for doing the investigative work here. And there's a PS here that says, "Thanks for the great podcast. I listened to the whole catalog basically on repeat to ensure that I'm not unpalatably crazy at any given moment of my life. Really amazing work. Sometimes I airdrop this. Oh my God, this is amazing. Sometimes I airdrop links to your episodes and episodes of 5-4 shout out when I'm drunk at the bar and meet strangers, etc."
Incredible.
Hey, thank you.
Hey, if anyone is listening to this that has found out about the podcasts from that, please write in and tell us, because, and also more people should do this.
Yes.
I would love to get someone. First of all, thank you for just like listening to it on repeat. I've done that before with various podcasts, and so I get it. It's very nice, and it's an honor to be the podcast you're doing that with.
Yes, thank you.
But also people should, out in public spaces, airdrop links to our podcast to people, and then write in if that is how you found out about it.
I would love if we received an email from somebody who received the show this way. That would be amazing. So thank you, Noah. That's amazing, and I think you're 100% correct in your investigative work there. That was probably it. So all in all, great email. So, Niall, that brings me to our subject this week. And
I would love for you to make it related to blowing your tits clean off.
Well,
or airdropping people in a bar.
If you there's some information in this story that did blow my tits clean off, if we're going to keep using that phrase. I will admit that, but airdropping, I mean, if you consider airdropping our podcast to random people in a bar as, like, I don't know, psychic warfare, then I guess that is. I think it kind of does. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, now that we've talked about MK Ultra, the history of ufology, stuff like where alphabet agencies, military intelligence, where UFOs intersect with that. I think we're ready to talk about a controversial figure in the world of weird. Niall, are you familiar with Martin Cannon?
I think I have come across that name, but I couldn't tell you where. So let's go with no.
Okay. Maybe this will help. This is the Martin Cannon who wrote the infamous text The Controllers.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And The Controllers and Martin Cannon's ideas are going to be what we're talking about. This is what we're going to get into. I was sort of explaining to you before the episode started how I've been watching interviews and stuff. What's kind of incredible is that in the last 3 years, Martin Cannon, after disappearing from the UFO scene for, I want to say, multiple decades, has reappeared and is giving interviews to people. In fact, I would like to give a big shout out to Erica Lukes and Emily Louise, 2 people who have conducted really great interviews with this guy, and just generally make great stuff. If you like UFOs and conspiracies and stuff, those are 2 people worth checking out. But I was specifically going and listening to their interviews with Martin Cannon.
Okay.
So let's talk The Controllers. Who or what are the Controllers? This is the title given to a book written by Martin Cannon, and this is one of those things that I have trouble understand. Like, I can't say personally how true this is, but what I understand is that this book, when it came out, sort of exploded onto the UFO scene and caused a lot of consternation among both believers and skeptics. And Martin Cannon will sort of say this himself, that he sort of pissed off both. He claims that he pissed off believers and skeptics alike with this book.
Okay.
But let me give you the very short summary of what this book actually is. And while this is, I think the best way to explain what this book is, when you get into the details, it gets so fucking strange. This is basically Martin Cannon getting into the nitty-gritty details of how to develop the human hypothesis of UFOs. So just the phrase human hypothesis, I feel that in the world of ufology, it's something you don't see people bring up all that often. Even though, like, it feels like it's sort of implicit in the very popular extraterrestrial hypothesis, right? Like, if you say it's aliens, then, like, the other possibility that it's not is sort of just standing in the room, like, going, like, hey, acknowledge me, right?
Yeah.
Human explanations, I think, are often left to the side. That definitely exists, but you're much more likely to find people throwing around the extraterrestrial hypothesis when you dig into UFOs. And I think a lot of this stems from this attitude that there's, no earthly means to explain UFOs, their existence, how they move. There's just nothing that you can. There's nothing that you can tie back to humans, so it has to be something otherworldly.
Yeah, like I feel like things like the way people think humans are involved in like more popular stories are that we have somehow gotten technology from extraterrestrials and and then using it on our own accord. But like I think that inherent to both believers and charlatans in the community, the human hypothesis doesn't help anybody. Like the people that are true believers believe in aliens, so it can't be the government, or whatever. And the charlatans, there's no money in saying it's humans,
right?
So I understand why it doesn't show up as much except in like debunker type stuff, because that's where you get, and that's mostly people saying, it was actually just a secret spacecraft, not spacecraft, jet or whatever.
Yeah, well, see, what you're saying is pretty much what Martin Cannon says. if you think of his text as running counter to the ET hypothesis, what he's also really trying to do is propose the earthly possible human explanation for every quote-unquote trope of a UFO abduction experience. I don't have a good word, but trope. Hopefully you get what I mean.
Sure. Yeah.
And you can maybe see how something like this might provoke the UFO fandom, especially in the early 1990s, where culturally aliens and UFOs were not just synonymous, but like wildly popular. It was a big deal then. So here's canon describing the UFO true believers. The believers, and here we should note that believers and abductees are two groups whose memberships overlap but are in no way congruent, accept such stories at face value. They accept, despite the seeming absurdity of these tales, the internal contradictions, the askew logic of narrative construction, the severe discontinuity of emotional response to the actions described. The believers believe, despite reports that their beloved space brothers use vile and inhuman tactics of medical examination, senseless procedures most of us, and certainly the vanguard of an advanced race, would be ashamed to inflict on an animal. The believers believe, despite the difficulty of reconciling those unsettling tales with their own deliriums of benevolent off-worlders. So, it's an interesting idea, I think. But when I was reading this, I was sort of like, and this is the absurdity of another version of the absurdity in ufology. It's like what he's describing to me is widely considered to be like two divergent versions of what aliens are.
Yeah,
you know,
it's kind of a weird oversimplification where like the ones that are doing the inhuman shit are usually evil aliens, whereas the Space Brothers are doing other shit, and those are sometimes entirely unrelated versions of aliens.
Yeah, and I don't want to like. I want to say up front that I actually really like Martin Cannon and a lot of the stuff he's saying. I think where this. Because he also talks a bit about how abductees will talk about how they love their captors, basically. That's another thing that I haven't read that, and I don't know exactly where that's coming from. But I think what he's sort of driving at is the experience where aliens will come to people and describe, they'll say like, oh, this is for, the good of your people or whatever, where this is for the benefit of the human race, but they're also the same aliens that are like probing you and strapping you down and other things that are just unnerving and scary. So, but again, he does also specifically refer to the Space Brothers, and I think in those encounters, you typically are getting like, a benevolent alien race that's coming down to just like relay a message, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but it is
sometimes show you a video.
Yeah.
They'll take you on board and
a couple
show you
videos,
some sort of projection. Yeah.
If you're really lucky, they'll take you back to their planet and strip you nude, and you can walk around in a nudist colony with all these aliens. So then there's the skeptics who Cannon claims are equally perturbed by his hypothesis. He says that both skeptics and believers don't like his book, and here's what he says about them. Conversely, the skeptics dismiss these stories out of hand. They dismiss, despite the intriguing confirmatory details, the multiple witness events, the physical traces left by the UFO knots, the scars and implants left on the abductees. The skeptics scoff, though the abductees tell stories similar in detail, even certain tiny details not known to the general public. So, the Controllers generally begins from a place we've established on the show over the last couple years, which is that the UFO movement of the late 1940s through the 50s and 60s not only caught the eye of intelligence agencies, but it's been well documented that civilian UFO groups were infiltrated by intelligence operatives, and this is all running parallel to, like, this is at the same time that things like MK Ultra and all of its sub-projects were happening.
Yeah.
There's, of course, speculation as to why these intelligence agencies give a shit about the UFO community, and I think there's a lot of different answers to that. And some of the good research on this era will point out that basically any sort of subversiveness was to be surveilled during this era. Like, think about the fact that a lot of the 60s era contactee movement was basically new religious movements, which runs counter to the, Christian narrative of the United States. Like, it's counter to the predominant religion, and that is subversive. And so they're going to watch you. There's also like I think there's a number of good reasons for infiltrating these UFO. Well, okay, an explanation, possibly like why they would want to infiltrate UFO groups. Beyond just that, that would be things like intentionally spreading misinformation. If you look at the UFO communities back then and now especially too, it's like you could plant a seed of misinformation and just be like, well, let's watch that spread and see what happens. There's the possibility of, provoking intent. This one's a little weird. Always been a little odd to me, but the idea of intentionally provoking something panic-inducing like a UFO invasion just to see how the public handles it. And then, of course, there's the idea of covering up government tech. So there's a lot of reasons. Our government and military intelligence seems to be interested in these people. We know that they have had some interest, probably still do, regardless of how absurd their beliefs may sometimes be. And my impression of Cannon is that he thinks that we as researchers or, just interested skeptical parties like podcasters, we shouldn't dismiss the claims of abductees and true believers outright like a dogmatic skeptic would. There may be another explanation which requires taking these bizarre stories into genuine consideration. And so he concludes his introductory stuff with this. I posit that the abductees have been abducted, yet they are also spewing fantasy, or more precisely, they have been given a set of lies to repeat and believe. If my hypothesis proves true, then we must accept the following. The kidnapping is real, the fear is real, the pain is real, the instruction is real. But the little gray men from Zeta Reticuli are not real. They are constructs, Halloween masks meant to disguise the real faces of the controllers. The abductors may not be visitors from beyond. Rather, they may be a symptom of the carcinoma which blackens our body politic. The fault lies not in our stars, but in ourselves. Isn't that fucking dope? Right. I love some of his writing. I think like I guess I want to point out that reading this is fun. Like, it's a fun and often spooky read, and he'll occasionally end a section in a fun way like that, and it keeps you going. The other thing that I'd like to point out is I generally like the thesis of the book and a lot of the work that was put into it, but sometimes he'll give like very specific citations, like, here's what I'm referencing, here's the information, here's how, like, the text that you can find this information in. And then there are other times where he's just frustratingly vague and lacking a source. This is fine, but it's a caveat that I would like to mention before we get too deeply submerged in the controllers. And I do often believe what he's saying about some of the facts. I just would like something that I can reference back to so I can confirm what he's saying. Like, I can't remember specifically, but there'll be a time where he'll have a bunch of like information and he'll source it back, and then you'll find a thing where he's just like, and contemporary science has proven that this thing is true, and then there'll be no source, and you'll be like, come on, I don't know. So then I go and do some digging on my own to see if I can find what he's talking about. In the last... here's something interesting, because... And I'm glad I watched the interviews before I did this episode, and because in the last couple of years, Cannon himself will say that he disavows the controllers now.
Interesting. Okay.
He says that he was naive when he wrote it, and there's a lot of reasons for that we'll get into later on. Like, when I hear him talk about it, I can understand where he's coming from. The thing that I would say, though, is like, I think this is a very much don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because I think there's a lot of good stuff in here. So I don't know. You're your own harshest critic, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
So things are going to get psychedelic very quickly. Cannon explains how he's read basically all the then publicly available material on MK Ultra and intelligence research into mind control, and he has developed the following hypothesis. Here's what he says. 1. Although misleading and occasionally perjured, testimony before Congress indicated that the CIA's brainwashing efforts met with little success, 7 striking advances were, in fact, made in this field. As CIA veteran Miles Copeland once admitted to a reporter, quote, "The congressional subcommittee which went into this sort of thing got only the barest glimpse." This is, of course, in reference to the Church Committee, which was the Senate Select Committee that came together in the mid-1970s to investigate the alleged abuses of our beloved alphabet agencies and their shady intelligence projects. So you'll recall this is the committee that we brought up in our series on MK Ultra, episodes 421 through 423, where they talked to a pretty reluctant-sounding Sidney Gottlieb. Sidney Gottlieb, who is trying to indirectly answer a lot of stuff. And Sidney Gottlieb, of course, being the poisoner in chief. So Martin Cannon goes on and says this of his hypothesis. 2. Clandestine research into thought manipulation has not stopped, despite CIA protestations that it no longer sponsors such studies. Victor Marchetti, 14-year veteran of the CIA and author of the renowned expose, The CIA and the Cult of Intelligence, confirmed in a 1977 interview that the mind control research continues and that CIA claims to the contrary are a cover story. 3. The Central Intelligence Agency was not the only government agency involved in this research. Indeed, many branches of our government took part in these studies, including NASA, the Atomic Energy Commission, as well as all branches of the Defense Department. And then 4. To these conclusions, I would append the following. Not as firmly established historical fact, but as a working hypothesis and grounds for investigation. The UFO abduction phenomenon might be a continuation of clandestine mind control operations.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's what the Controllers is about. And, you know, I think I would generally agree with a lot of what he's saying here. The more I read about MK Ultra, the more I think it makes sense that even if it didn't continue in name, stuff like MK Ultra is still happening.
Yeah, I mean, I've always felt, or at least for a long time while doing this podcast, it's felt like, why would they actually stop research into that area? When there's so many things where when you're researching some project from the 60s or 70s, you'll then find out that it was basically reopened with a different name like 4 different times, and you're like, oh, okay, so this is a pattern. They don't actually give up on anything unless there is no real usable thing to get out of it, like if it's a total bust. Yeah. And so I would not be surprised.
There's no like, I feel like the Church Commission, you can like point it and be like, well, there you go. That's when MK Ultra and all this stuff ends. But like, why would it end? Especially like you just start thinking about, and obviously there is a level of paranoia with all of this that you have to be really careful about. But like something that I've been thinking about recently. Do you remember when during the Black Lives Matter protests of, what was it, 2020? How there were like these people who were like coming in and like it was all these like black people coming and like hugging cops and like getting together with the cops and like doing peace stuff with the police. And then
I remember a couple things, yeah.
And then it came out that those people were literally paid actors. Like, and I'm not saying that I'm saying that you can like go and find the apologies from these actors who are like tracked down by people online, and they were like, I'm sorry that I did that, but we were paid to come in and like hug cops. Like, and you read something like that, and you just go, obviously to me that's like small. That's just like a little thing. Like, I don't know why you would accept the idea that these kinds of operations, even if they're not called MK Ultra, don't persist.
Yeah. Agreed.
If you want like a good, I can't remember the. Go check out MK Decoy, our two-parter on MK Decoy, which was a sub-project of MK Ultra. But in it, the researcher that I got the information from ties like a bunch of stuff into. Like, do you remember the guys who were? I'm not going to remember this stuff. Go check out MK Decoy, I guess, if you want more information on how this stuff can tie back into. It was these guys who were like taken to CIA black sites and tortured, and they all had histories of concussions and stuff, like head injury, head trauma.
Yeah.
Just very strange. You can't say much conclusively, but it's like that smells like an MK Ultra style thing,
Yep.
Anyways, that's a diversion. A digression, I should say. So, so the suggestion that the elephant in the room here is that, the suggestion that what we do know about MK Ultra and intelligence investigations into things like mind control, hypnosis, and even the occult could help explain the phenomena of alien abductions. That's what is being set up here. This is not a totally new idea to us. Many times we've brought up the name of a possible victim of an alien abduction false flag. That is Antonio Villas-Boas. And you'll recall the story of the alleged ex-CIA agent Bosko Nedeljkovic, who supposedly blew the whistle on a clandestine operation to stage UFO abductions in Brazil, and one of its victims was Boas. And that's another story where you're just like, I don't know what to do with that, because you can't. It's not provably true. It's not provably true, but this guy who claims to be a CIA agent, who might not be a CIA agent, but also look, we don't have time to get into Bosko Nedeljkovic right now. Anyways, a good chunk of the first part of the text gets into the history of MK Ultra and all that. We've talked about this. He does bring up somebody very interesting who I don't think we've really talked about much, and that is a guy named George Estabrooks. Estabrooks was a Canadian psychologist and chairman of the Department of Psychology at Colgate University. He also was well researched on hypnotism. That was his one of his expertise.
Okay.
So Estabrooks, like pretty much all the psychedelic soldiers of MK Ultra, has a bunch of weird shit attached to their names online. There's a bunch of weird information you can find about this guy, and something that I check Wikipedia to see if I can find good references back to material that I can read. And I checked out the Wikipedia page on him, and the beginning entry that bafflingly says this. Estabrooks did... This is how it's written, by the way, word for word. Estabrooks did experiments on children. He exchanged correspondence with then FBI Director Edgar Hoover about using hypnosis to interrogate juvenile delinquents. It is possible he used Manchurian candidates in children. Jane Roberts revealed in an interview with The Village Voice that Dr. Instream in the Seth material was in fact Estabrooks. So also, it says... The part where it says, it is possible he used Manchurian candidates in children, has a citation thing that says, according to whom?
Yeah, sure.
And maybe I don't have to tell you this, but the passage that I just read to you links back to like 4 podcast episodes worth of bizarre material. So I feel like Wikipedia moderators are not looking at the page for George Estabrooks. It's so
not
weird.
Hotly debated there. It's because we'll get to it eventually.
Jane Roberts was like an occultist who channeled an entity that was named Seth. And there's a person in there named Dr. Instream, and then there's a forum post that this Wikipedia page links back to. And don't worry, I saved all this because I was like, somebody's going to notice that this is fucked up and delete all of it. It links back to a forum post, which then references a Village Voice article where this psychic channeler Jane Roberts reveals that this person in their story, who they referred to as Dr. Instream, was actually Estabrooks. I can't tell you.
Okay.
I can't tell you. We can't get into it.
So we'll have an episode on the Seth.
We'll have the
Chronicles
Jane
at
Roberts
some
and
point.
the Seth
All right.
material episode. Someday. So, anyways, here's the point that I'm trying to get to. Early on into World War II, Estabrooks wrote to the Department of War explaining the potential applications of hypnosis in warfare. And I sort of imagine that they moved to call him back so quickly that they nearly ripped the cord out of the wall, because he was pretty quickly hired after this correspondence. He gets hired by the Department of War based on the fact that he is saying that you could use hypnosis in war. So apparently, Estabrooks cooked his books. He burned his diary that contained stuff written between 1940 and 1945. So a lot like MK Ultra itself, it's probably impossible to know everything that Estabrooks did. But I did find an article from Science Digest written in April of 1971 where he talks about his work with military intelligence during and after the war. So we have some claims about what he could do in his own words, and it's a lot. Basically, he claimed that he could develop hypnotic couriers. These are people who would be put under hypnosis, given a message that they wouldn't remember until they were put back into a hypnotic state. And he could then take this courier, put them under hypnosis, give them a message, and then send them off to another person who needed to hear the message, who then had a secret phrase that could induce hypnosis in the courier, and under that hypnotic state, they would relay the message.
So they would go to the person that the message was for, not under hypnosis, or they would...
Not under hypnosis. And then the person who was receiving the courier would have a secret message that would then...
So they have no memory of going to the person? Like...
No, they have they do know that they go to the person. All the courier knows, in the way Estabrooks describes it, is that they have to go to this location. Like, they have to go meet with somebody at this location. And in the article, he says that it was like Japan, and there's a colonel there.
That feels like a kind of a big security risk for this thing.
Well, you have to understand that Estabrooks, in his describing of it, is saying that when he sets up this hypnosis courier, he also plants in the subject this idea that only me, Estabrooks, and the agent that you're going to go meet in this location are allowed to hypnotize you. And that blocks others from getting that info.
Sure. This is like one of those things where someone will write, this feels like a 60s era Batman villain thing where like there's this really kind of complicated system for like, you know, petty crime, and you're like, this is just like way too much work for nothing. And I think it's
but
I'm not sure this works.
Well,
guys, I think this might need to go back and be cooked a little more.
And like, but here's the thing: the idea is that you could send secret messages across the world with no chance of that information getting out. And again, you also have to think that this is supposedly experimental work just to see what they can do. But if you didn't accept that, you're not going to accept what he's about to say. And you have to remember, Estabrooks is a guy who is on like intelligence payroll.
Yeah, I'm down to ride with it. I just it feels like the subject, the courier, remembering that they have to get to a specific person. You'd have a lot of people being like, why did I go meet a general in Japan that one time?
The thing is, his subject is a military guy. And he's just like, your order is to go to Japan and do this.
Okay, so they're using people who are kind of not in on the message, but are in the kind of pecking order.
Yes, exactly. So the point would be, you would be able to send this person to Japan under an order without them knowing that they carried a message. That's the idea.
Sure.
But if you
put it in the structure of the military, it works better than if you... I like
just a Joe
it felt
Schmo.
like I thought it was just like people off the street.
No.
Which feels like a big risk. So,
But
anyway, go ahead.
that's also a thing to maybe think about. Just a civilian and the applications. I might have a story or two that relates to that in the future.
I always think about it as like, it always is like, how could this be the most heinous it could be? Because that just seems how these things end up being used. So,
Yeah. So Estabrooks also claims to have created a hypnotically induced split personality in subjects. And this stuff is so crazy, I'm just going to read what he says directly. Here's how he describes it. During World War II, I worked this technique with a vulnerable Marine lieutenant all called Jones. Under the watchful eye of Marine intelligence, I split his personality into Jones A and Jones B. Jones A, once a normal working Marine, became entirely different. He talked communist doctrine and meant it. He was welcomed enthusiastically by communist cells, was deliberately given a dishonorable discharge by the Corps, which was in on the plot, and became a card-carrying party member. The Joker was Jones B, the second personality, formerly apparent in the conscious Marine. Under hypnosis, this Jones had been carefully coached by suggestion. Jones B was the deeper personality, knew all the thoughts of Jones A, was a loyal American, and was imprinted to say nothing during conscious phases. All I had to do was hypnotize the whole man, get in touch with Jones B, the loyal American, and I had a pipeline straight into the communist camp. It worked beautifully for months with this subject, but the technique backfired. While there was no way for an enemy to expose Jones's dual personality, they suspected it and played the same trick on us later.
So, okay.
Basically,
I like an Uno reversal here. That's good.
He's saying he could hypnotically turn somebody into a communist who also carried the personality of a loyal American, send them into infiltrate communists, and report back as the loyal American containing it. But then apparently the communists caught on and then did it to us. That's what I think he's saying. So
yeah,
obviously I have no idea how true any of this, but something I think about with these kinds of things is how claims like this from a guy like Estabrooks are effectively a form of counterintelligence regardless of whether or not they're true.
Sure.
Obviously these intelligence folks thought hypnosis research, I think it's clear that hypnosis research and the possible applications were something that they definitely thought was worthwhile. But it is like, you read this guy say this, and you're like, no, dude, no way. That maybe I could be convinced of the hypnotic courier thing. If we assume that hypnosis works as effectively as we think it does, sure, maybe. But this idea of the split personality going in and infiltrating communists who then did it back to us, that's a little too thriller movie for me. But I don't know. And there's also the fact that when you read a lot of the stuff, there's this contradicting thing. And Cannon points this out in his book where he's like, okay, on the one hand, we have the CIA making public statements about how the Soviets are researching stuff like this. Mm-hmm. Which, as far as I can tell, was basically true. They were. But then you also can find the conflicting information that the Soviets were lagging behind us on this research. So the idea that you could have this hypnosis split personality battle between the two nations is so ridiculous, especially if the Soviets were lagging behind us. I don't know. It's very strange, right? But it's a cool story. So, can't say anything conclusive, but many such cases. However, Niall, I would like you to keep the concept of the hypnotic courier in the back of your mind for the coming months. It's going to be relevant for a future episode. It's the ability to use hypnosis to gain such a level of control. It's the hypnotic courier. That's Chekhov's hypnotic courier.
That feels like something that will will come back.
Yeah.
So I'll remember that.
So this all leads to the first trope of alien abduction that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
That is implants. So anybody familiar with stories of alien abduction knows about alien implants. Pretty well known that if you get abducted by an alien, they're going to shove some shit up your nose or in your ear, usually some small metallic object that is, who knows what it's doing. Lots of alien-based theories about, like, treating humanity as cattle, basically. Like, we're being tagged and released, essentially.
Yep.
But he's here. Martin Cannon's here to offer some alternatives. It's it's a little funny because Cannon says that there have been MRI scans taken of abductees where implants are allegedly visible, and I do believe we've talked about this before.
Yeah, I did. I think he was a dentist by trade that I did an episode on who was like one of the people that really popularized the idea of alien implants and was one of the foremost researchers on the subject, so to speak. AKA tries to make a living off of them. So.
Bit spurious, yeah. Well,
yeah.
What I find funny is that Cannon, when he says that there's these MRI scans taken of these abductees, he cites it back to Whitley Strieber, the author of Communion, who claims to have had an implant in his body. It's funny that it goes back to Whitley Strieber, and I don't want it to seem like I'm talking shit on Strieber because I actually like him, but I don't know whether he's going to be our best bet for proving the existence of alien implants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But these are the kinds of sources that Cannon is working with sometimes. The implant stuff he also relates it back to a hypnotherapist and abduction researcher named Miranda Park, who I had trouble finding information on. So yeah, there's that.
Okay.
Cannon also claims to have seen the alleged implant evidence himself. He says that in one of his interviews, he says that an abductee had some sort of strange metal object lodged in their ear, and he's seen it. He saw that person in person with a thing inside of them. However, Cannon protects the identity of this person and doesn't name them. And I also think that it's important to mention that he says that while he saw this and that it was very weird, he can't definitively say it was some sort of implant.
Sure.
So if people are, in fact, discovering these sudden mysterious implants in or around their brains, how in the world are they getting there except for extraterrestrial intervention? Well, Cannon proceeds to bring up a book with the most evil-ass science name, just straight-up evil scientist shit.
Okay.
The worst, maybe the worst I've ever heard. This is a piece of text called Physical Control of the Mind Toward a Psycho-Civilized Society.
Jesus. Yeah, that's a real fascistic title.
It's not good. This is written by neuroscientist Jose Delgado. And there's just an immensely dark energy radiating off that title.
Yeah.
So Cannon relates the alien implant back to something called a stimoceiver, which was a real thing. This is a small electrode about the size of a silver dollar that could be implanted in the brain. I can't tell you exactly when he invented this device, but I can tell you that Delgado's first published work in which he describes the implantation process in humans is 1952. This is very relevant for the MK Ultra timeline. And yes, by the way, his work was funded by the Office of Naval Intelligence and the CIA throughout the 50s and 60s. Would you believe me if I told you that most of Delgado's human subjects for this device were women with either schizophrenia or epilepsy?
Yeah, you could convince me of that. Sure.
We have talked, I think in the MK Ultra episodes, we did talk about how, God, schizophrenics were like a huge number of the people being targeted for these, these experiments. It's fucked up. So apparently this little electrode could send and receive signals over FM radio waves, and putting the stimoceiver in the right spot in a subject's brain could supposedly give somebody a good degree of control over that subject. So here's what Cannon says. The most famous example of the stimoceiver in action occurred in a Madrid bull ring. Delgado wired the bull before stepping into the ring entirely unprotected. Furious for gore, the bull charged toward the doctor, then stopped just before reaching him. The technician-turned-toreador had halted the animal by simply pushing a button on a black box held in the hand.
I mean, is that okay? Do we have like footage of this? Is this real?
I think this is real. I don't think there's footage of it, but I do believe this happened, and I can tell you, I did a little skimming of physical control of the mind. This guy was real, and his research was real, and Ken continues by talking about Delgado's text, and he says that it remains the sole full-length popularly written book on intracerebral implants and electronic stimulation of the brain, or ESB. The book's ominous title and unconvincing philosophical rationales for mass mind control prompted an unfavorable public reaction, which may have deterred other researchers from publishing on this theme for a general audience. Gee, who'd have thunk?
Really spoiled it for everyone.
Very unpopular. He goes on and says, while subsequent work has long since superseded the techniques described in this book, Delgado's achievements were seminal. His animal and human experiments clearly demonstrate that the experimenter can electronically induce emotions and behavior. Under certain conditions, the extremes of temperament, rage, lust, fatigue, etc., can be elicited by an outside operator as easily as an organist might call forth a C major chord.
I mean, okay.
Cannon references a quote from Delgado himself wherein he describes the ability to induce, quote, colored vision in a subject, and Cannon says that this is very likely a description of remotely induced hallucination.
Okay,
Niall,
that makes sense.
This is also a Chekhov's remotely induced hallucination. So
yeah,
just keep it in mind because we're going to have to pay it off later. So Delgado's research also showed that his patients, quote, expressed the successive sensations of fainting, fright, and floating around, and that, quote, these floating feelings were repeatedly evoked on different days by stimulation of the same point. Can you guess what Cannon's about to say?
Not specifically.
Do you
like stimulation at the same point? I always go her is going to make people come in their pants.
Oh, true.
But no, I don't think that's what this is going for here.
Would you agree that a huge amount of UFO abduction cases begin with the abductee floating out of their bed?
Yes, I would.
That's what he's saying. He is saying that these feelings, especially the sensation of floating, sounds reminiscent of the opening salvos of an alien abduction.
Right. Okay. Sure. Yeah. I'm with you.
He also suggests that a hypnotic subject could then be made to misremember the cause of the floating sensation. So, like, if we're going to assume that hypnosis is a thing that you can do to, fuck up what people know and believe and remember, then you could not only do all this shit that would then cause this floating sensation, you can then be like, well, they think they're floating. I'm an alien. You're floating because I'm an alien with psychic powers and I'm abducting you.
Yeah, and also then we if they want to make hallucinations, yeah, sure. I'm starting to kind of piece together the toolbox here.
Yeah. Oh, and here's the thing. Now, this is just tool number one.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess hypnosis is technically tool number one, but we haven't really even gotten that deep into the hypnosis stuff. So Cannon also relates the stimoceiver work back to the patently absurd $20 million CIA venture known as Project Acoustic Kitty.
I don't know if I know that one.
Okay.
Which one's Project Acoustic Kitty?
I couldn't remember if I brought this up, but Delgado found that he could attach the stimoceiver to the inner ear of a subject and turn it into a microphone. So he would set a cat up with this stimoceiver in its ear, and you would have an assistant go into a room with the cat and whisper into the cat's ear, and then Delgado would receive the message over a loudspeaker in a completely separate room. So
that's like this is some real they wondered if they could, they never stopped to wonder if they should, kind of science we're dealing with here.
Well, I think they could, is my understanding. Was, and all of this is the basis for the Acoustic Kitty operation. And Cannon, I mentioned him earlier, but Cannon references that former CIA guy, Victor Marchetti. He wrote the book, The CIA and the Cult of Intelligence. And I've read part of that book. It's interesting. And he references this guy a number of times throughout the Controllers. And the Acoustic Kitty was supposedly used to spy on the Kremlin. And Marchetti claims that a cat equipped with the spy device was released near the Soviet embassy in D.C., but was pretty much immediately hit by a car and killed. This is a claim that Marchetti makes, I believe, but the story is disputed. Maybe
sure.
The veracity of Marchetti is one of those things that's a little under scrutiny by some people. But whatever, that is the way the story goes. The counterclaim from another person is that the reason that the project stopped, even though they poured $20 fucking million into it.
Yeah, a lot.
Is because they couldn't get the cat to behave in the way they wanted, to get it to go to the places they wanted. Like, it just was not possible to wrangle the cat.
Sure. Sure.
So no, they some others would argue that no, we didn't kill a cat. We just couldn't make it do non-cat things. So the point here is that the CIA may have developed a way to turn pets into spies. Cannon takes everything I just told you and suggests that a stimoceiver-like device could be an explanation for not just physical evidence of an implant, but electronic stimulation of the brain could also explain the voices abductees claim to hear in their heads. Think about psychic communication. It spoke to me, but it didn't move its mouth. I heard it in my mind.
Yeah. Okay. That's actually a clever. Okay, I like that. I like that as an explanation for telepathy.
Telepathy, yeah. Cannon brings up the research of Robert Heath and James Olds. They're two researchers who independently found that a certain part of the brain could be electronically stimulated to create rewarding and aversive effects. I want to note here that Robert Heath, I think, sucks because Heath's research was an attempt to cure homosexuality.
Jesus.
Heath found that, which again, it must be cured, and so let's just shock some people's brains. Heath found that he not only was able to induce hallucinations, fear, and sexual arousal, but ESB could even control a subject's memory. So Cannon says here, both animals and men, when given the means to induce their own ESB of the brain's pleasure centers, will stimulate themselves at a tremendous rate, ignoring such basic drives as hunger and thirst. So if you were to stimulate these particular centers, people would, ignore the fact that they're hungry.
Yeah, I think, didn't they do this? I feel like I've read something about people testing this on mice, and they get so addicted to pressing the button that they die, effectively.
Well, you know where I know you must have read this?
Where?
When you were doing your episode on John C. Lilly and his dolphins.
Oh, yeah. That was a long time ago. Yep.
Because John C. Lilly comes up here. In fact, Cannon says that John C. Lilly found the same effects, basically, in the early 1950s with dolphins using electrodes. And I think the reason he brings it up is to point out that this was the early 1950s that he was able to do this. He goes on and says, anyone who has studied the abduction phenomenon will find himself on familiar territory here, for the abductee accounts are replete with stories of bewildering and inappropriate sexual response, countered by extremely painful stimuli, operant conditioning, at its most extreme and most insidious, for here we see a form of conditioning in which the manipulator renders himself invisible. Indeed, B.F. Skinner-esque aversion therapy, remotely applied, was Heath's prescription for healing homosexuality.
Okay.
He's explaining why people have horny encounters with aliens.
Yeah. And like, in a way that... how do I say this? There are certain things like this where someone has kind of this complete taking an entire thing that we've talked about and kind of turning it on its head, where it's like, oh, I can explain away everything here. Where you can kind of fall into it and stop kind of being doubting it at all, and kind of just be like, oh yeah, this cleans it up entirely. And I feel like I might be coming down with a little bit of that, because it's like anytime I see something like this that's like an interesting spin on everything, it's like, oh, that's really cool, let's dig into that. But I'm sitting here trying to find, like, are there any big holes in what we've talked about so far?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the main point is that this is all hypothetical, right? Like, he's proposing this and not saying it conclusively. And I really want to get into why he has sort of backtracked in the last couple of years on this book.
I would be very curious about that.
Because let me put it this way. I was talking about how, like, just by saying crazy shit, guys like Estabrooks can just do counterintelligence. So it's about what saying the thing does rather than what's true.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that Martin Cannon is concerned about what his text did. He is concerned about what it does, because as we talk through this, you'll start to notice things that sound familiar, and familiar with some scary, messed up stuff.
Okay.
So,
did he have like kind of a Wachowski's turn where he was like, we kind of got the wrong people took the wrong shit from the art we were trying with the thing we were trying to make.
Sort of. And I will tell you also, another thing that comes up with Cannon a lot in his discussions and in this book is he's interested in where, and this is not where I'm going with the wrong people necessarily, although certainly these people have found it and taken it to heart. Cannon is really interested in where all of this weird shit intersects with the far right extremism.
Sure.
But we'll have to dive into him and his thoughts and feelings on his work later, because I do have a portion about the guy and what he's talked about himself. So, following up on the curing homosexuality stuff, things really only get worse. Cannon brings up another researcher into this field of technology, a guy called Ralph Schwitzgebel, who he calls the, quote, inventor of electronic house arrest. He developed technology that could track a subject physically and neurologically within a quarter mile. And that this tech was initially sort of done with, like, a lot of wires. It was very cumbersome, but it was eventually shrunk down and made the technology was made smaller as one does.
The ankle bracelet that we have now.
Well, he's saying that this tech, the speculation about how to use it, that was coming from Schwitzgebel, in tandem with ESB, there was this idea that you could mount radio receivers to utility poles throughout a city. And then these transmitters could then keep watch on everybody who had an implant 24 hours a day.
Wow.
Is this all starting to sound a little familiar? The idea that you're just being constantly watched by your city? You could maybe see where where his concern about who read this came from.
Yep.
So if this all didn't sound enough like a hell designed for paranoiacs, check this fucking shit out. Here's what he says. Perhaps the most disturbing wanderer into this minefield is Joseph A. Meyer of the National Security Agency, the most formidable and secretive component of America's national security complex. And side note here, if you think that the CIA is like hard to get information out of, the NSA is fucking impossible. Just completely just black. You can't get stuff from them. It's very difficult. He goes on and says, Meyer has proposed implanting roughly half of all Americans arrested, not necessarily convicted, of any crime. The numbers of subscribers, his euphemism, would run into the tens of millions. Subscribers could be monitored continually by computer wherever they went. Meyer, who has carefully worked out the economics of his mass implantation system, asserts that taxpayer liability should be reduced by forcing subscribers to rent the implant from the state. Implants are cheaper and more efficient than police, Meyer suggests, since the call to crime is relentless for the poor urban dweller, who this spook scientist admits in a surprisingly candid aside is fundamentally unnecessary to a post-industrial economy. Urban dweller may be another of Meyer's euphemisms. He uses New York's Harlem as his model community in working out the details of his mind management system.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, not good. Not good at all. It's bad.
That really...
It's not good, Niall.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That sentence just kept getting worse.
That's
like the longer you went, the worse it got.
That's what I was kind of trying to say. Is it just gets worse and worse and worse. So yeah, it's. I mean, yeah, we don't. Obviously, there is another. It should be said that these fucked up intelligence operations and all this stuff, like the people, it is racially unequal, you know?
Oh yeah,
like
for sure.
That's what the point is here. Like, when he says urban dweller, it's very clear that he's being racist because he wants to target Harlem, which predominantly black, right? Like, yeah, he's a fucking. Of course, these are the people at the NSA. Like, what would you expect?
Yeah.
So, anyways, all of this could be an explanation for what we've come to know as alien implants, right? And this would also maybe help explain the scars that are left behind and the visions of alien beings and everything and voices, psychic communication. You could explain it maybe with this stuff.
You know what kind of sucks about this? You could use this argument to try and justify hypnotic regression.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a bunch of things that suck about this, but this is just one that crossed my mind. Where, like, because so much of hypnotic regression is like, we're going to put you under and we're going to help you remember what actually happened.
Yeah.
And like, sometimes that involves like some hidden abuse or whatever in the past, or like whatever, and it. So I can just see people like, we're gonna uncover the actual people that did the thing, and then you're still like, hypnotic regression is so based on whatever the whims of the person doing it to you are.
Yeah,
and like,
that is true.
It's just such a mess. Anyway,
it is very true that, like, a big problem with hypnotic regression is that the person who is conducting it sort of it's inherently flawed, right? Like, we've talked about Bud Hopkins and his interactions with people, and how he has this obsession with alien human hybridization and like the abduction of pregnant women and all this stuff. And you'll find that he like is able to confirm that idea when he goes and interviews abductees with a hypnotherapist who can do the regression stuff, right? Like,
he keeps happening to come across these abductees who had these alien pregnancies.
Right.
It's really wild. He's got a hit rate like crazy.
But something I'm like, my worldview has started to change. I've started to get a little more weirded out and confused about what's real when it comes to hypnosis.
Yeah.
It's starting to make me feel really weird. The more I learn about it, the weirder I feel. God, we're not getting into it in this episode, but Niall, have you ever heard of the Copenhagen hypnosis murders?
I don't think so.
Okay. We'll get, if we have time for this, we'll get into it. But Cannon also brings this up. It was a totally fucked bank robbery and then murder that happened in Denmark in 1951. And it was perpetrated by a guy who was hypnotized to do it.
Interesting.
And it's weird. I don't know what to think anymore with hypnosis. I like, it feels paranoid, to be like, oh my God, can these fucking spooks hypnotize people and make them do shit? But like, I keep finding these extremely bizarre stories and people like Martin Cannon talking about them, and it's just like, I don't know what to believe anymore. Because like, I think that like, if you hear about hypnosis, and you're like, I think the general consensus that you will get from people is that like, oh no, hypnosis is sort of bunk, and we can even do some, we can do like tests to prove that like it's actually just this or that or whatever. But like,
yep,
I think that there's some stuff that does suggest to me that people who are suggestive will do some weird shit under hypnosis.
It's not as clear cut as I used to think it was.
Same, yeah, same. We'll. Oh God, I don't know. Maybe we can. I mean, Cannon does get into hypnosis stuff too, but maybe I just have to do a really deep dive onto the subject or something. I don't know.
Yeah, find some way to do a hypnosis episode. Sure.
So Cannon concludes the section on implants by anticipating a question that skeptics might have, which is, surely the amount of time required for implanting an ESB device in a human precludes the possibility that people being abducted by aliens are actually being implanted by people. And here's his answer. He says, if estimates of missing time are correct, the abductions rarely take longer than 1 to 3 hours. Wouldn't a brain surgeon operating under less than ideal conditions, perhaps in a mobile unit, need more time? No, not if we accept the claims of a Florida doctor named Daniel Mann. He recently proposed a draconian solution to the overblown missing children problem by suggesting a program wherein America's youngsters would be implanted with tiny transmitters in order to track the children continuously. Mann brags that the operation can be done right in the office and would take less than 20 minutes. Conceivably, it might take a tad longer in the field.
Jesus. So do they have some? Is there like a piercing gun for ESBs that's like, you can do it with a needle traditionally, or you can do the like beep done, like,
I don't know. I mean, one of the big questions that you run into, and Cannon will also bring up, is like, how far ahead could the technology be that we can't see, that we're not allowed to see? It's I think it's a good question that I don't know, but like, could you develop a gun? I mean, look, have you seen the video of the heart attack gun?
Yeah.
Where the guy like slides this gun across the table at the hearing, and it's just like, it like shoots like a needle and just induces a heart attack. Mm-hmm. And that's the stuff that they let us see,
Yeah. That's the thing that I honestly try not to think too much about, because it just makes like you can really drive yourself up a wall doing it, where it's like, we know how long these types of programs have been existing, which means that there has been at least secret motivations of certain branches of the government with a sizable budget for 70 years at this point, maybe a little longer. How much are they doing that we don't? Like, how much do they have that we don't know about?
Yeah. It's like, again, the whole thing is so shot through with an insane amount of paranoia. I don't want to be... I love reading about paranoid as fuck stuff. But I can't let myself be a total paranoiac about it. But I find the stories and the questions it brings up very fun. But like, on the other hand, like I said, canon disavows the controllers now. I think he literally in one of the interviews says it's a bad book that does bad things. So, you know, I sort of respect that. But I think it's interesting too.
Yeah.
And that's why we're going to have to continue in part 2, Niall.
Sure.
Because we just talked about implants. There's so many more things to UFO abductions that we can talk about.
There's still quite a bit to go. Yeah, that's. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that like is really interesting to talk about. But then, the more you think about it, the more you're just kind of like. You don't even know what to do with yourself.
Yeah,
it's just like I don't know what to do with this. Is everything? How much of our society is fucking facade? You know?
Yeah. Well, and like
all of it?
he says like, if my hypothesis proves true, and it's like literally there's nothing. You can't prove any of this true.
Yeah.
And that's where it stands. Like, unfortunately, I would love for somebody to like for there to be an accidental leak of like MK Ultra stuff that proves definitively what the UFO abduction phenomenon actually is. Like, that would be fucking sick. I think I would love to know. Maybe I don't want to know, but I do kind of, you know, that could be an interesting. Like, think about what would happen to. I thought about it and I realized it's actually not that interesting, because I was going to say, think about what would happen to the contemporary disclosure movement people if information got leaked from like old CIA documents that it was all an MK Ultra project. And then I remembered those people would probably just, you know, be like, well, that's fake news.
Yeah, they
or
would
whatever.
ignore it. Yeah.
So anyways, that's part 1 of Martin Cannon's The Controllers. There's so much more to get into. It's super fun. Like, I don't know how much of it I can like bring myself to believe, but I think there's some stuff there that's worth considering, at least.
It's an interesting alternate theory that makes you think about things in a different way, and like there's something interesting to be seen in how much you can kind of explain through somewhat believable human means, you know?
Yeah, I think, like, look, I love when people get deep into their lore. I mean, we just talked about Lyrans and the deep lore of the different people involved in that mythology. I love when people get really deep into their science fiction creative writing stuff, but I also kind of love that there is this really, really crazy counter. Like the human hypothesis could be really boring if it wasn't for the controllers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
spices it up.
I kind of like it.
Yeah, I'm into it. Excited for part 2.
Yeah. So, with all that being said, Niall, I have a big question for you if you're ready.
Oh, I'm so ready.
Okay. If you could implant a pet with an audio transmitter and convince a friend that their pet could talk, what kind of stuff would you have that pet say?
Okay. There's a lot of good impetus for pranks here.
Sure.
I do think it would be funny to have the pet speak a language that the owner doesn't know. So then they have to try to learn a language to
They're like
converse
piecing
with their
it together.
Yeah, like I think there would be something fun in that, where it's like why is my pet speaking Portuguese? Like what is making my Bashan speak Portuguese? You know, I think there's something.
Yeah.
I think there's something there, which that's not exactly what they would say. That's just
Sure.
that's how they would say it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do like that as an answer, but you know, do you think that like what do you think this person's piecing together as they have to, you know, start studying Portuguese?
Yeah. Why is he just quoting the Odyssey? Like, I do think it would be fun to like just really committing to a very specific bit. Like the dog is only talking about like Shakespeare, like, you know, like pick something that there's like a lot to pull from.
Yeah.
And just make it only express itself through Shakespearean dialogue, I think would be... There's something fun there.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can translate all of the works. I mean, I'm sure it's already been done. Get a Portuguese... I don't know why I picked Portuguese, but fuck it.
Sure.
Shakespearean stuff and run from there.
It could be funny if he's like... The cat is like saying in Portuguese like all these classics of literature and all like you described, but eventually it starts to get like fucking weird, and the person who has to translate it realizes like, oh my god, this is from the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. It gets real fucked up.
You start getting into conspiracy texts and stuff. It's like it's why is it talking about the chthonic fucking
energetic universe?
Energies. Yeah. All right.
Oh shit! I didn't know my cat was an anti-Semite. Fuck.
The cat just. The cat is purely like talking about the works of David Icke, and you're just like, oh god damn it.
Yeah, see, that was sort of the avenue. I was thinking like, okay, maybe, because what I kind of wanted is like maybe the cat or the dog or whatever pet, or like maybe they're goldfish. You just you put your ear to the aquarium glass and you just hear the muffled sounds of like, they're going to implement a new currency in the New World Order. I was thinking like maybe the pets could start saying some really fringe conspiracy stuff. The other thing that
the gold fringe on the flag means we're technically at war and martial law is enacted.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted it to be. But alternatively, I was thinking like maybe the cat shows up and he's like explaining how there's a war coming between cats and dogs, and then he just relays the entire plot of the film Cats versus Dogs. Which I haven't seen,
or its sequels. Oh, I saw that movie when I was a child, and it's not good.
Sure,
like it's not worth your time. But I don't know why I said it like that. There's not really a but to it. It's not very good. Don't watch it.
Well,
but also I don't really know how that movie connects to the truth about cats and dogs.
Sure.
It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
Well, my question is, how did they get all the cats and dogs' mouths to move like that?
I think it's all peanut butter.
Sure. Okay.
Put a little peanut butter in their mouth.
I guess that's an easier.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah.
I hadn't considered that. Sort of like a Mr. Ed style.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The guy on that show sat on his balls and had to delay shooting. That's all I know about Mr. Ed. I don't know fucking anything about the show itself other than I know there's a talking horse, and I know the old man on it sat on his own balls.
They got him to do it with peanut butter.
Yeah.
And then they canceled the
I hope
show
that was
once
Mr. Ed. I think that is.
They did cancel the show once he started connecting, Mr. Ed started talking about the connection between reptilians and the Jews and banking.
Yeah. He started getting really into Rosicrucianism, and everyone was like, this is
maybe we
direction.
take this horse back out and destroy it.
Yeah.
How many Mr. Eds do you think
why do we
destroy?
I know we've talked about this before, but why do we destroy horses?
I don't know, but it's like, look, it sucks. I will acknowledge it sucks that people will just kill a lame horse. But I also think it's really funny that they refer to it as destroying. I can't help but find that very funny. Because I'm a twisted fucking psychopath, I guess.
Welcome to your twisted mind.
Welcome to my twisted mind. Yeah, how many horses do you think they destroyed over the course of filming Mr. Ed? Because I think it's got to be double digits.
I honestly don't know. Like I don't know how long Mr. Ed existed. It could be a 2-season show, it could be a 20-season show, and I would have no fucking idea because I only know it as a reference and don't know. I've never seen a single frame of the actual television show.
That's my intuition says at least 10 destroyed horses. Like, I'm assuming that there is a graveyard somewhere that is dedicated to the horses from Mr. Ed.
So. Sure. Like, it's definitely possible. Do you think? And was that show black and white? Like,
yeah.
I think you had a little more play, with like covering up that the horse changed in black and white because you don't have to like match the color exactly and stuff. Like, I think that they could get away with a lot back then.
Absolutely. Well, horse destruction aside, are you ready to take care of some business?
Oh, always. So if you want to follow us on social media, we're on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/ItGetsWeirdPodcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers. Wherever you listen to podcasts, look up It Gets Weird, and we're almost certainly there.
I think I'm gonna start dropping the Facebook because who the fuck
gives a
uses
shit?
Facebook?
Yeah, go fuck yourself.
Go
Facebook.
fuck yourself. Who cares? We are on Blue Sky at It Gets Weird. I try to keep that. I check that occasionally. I'm trying to get off Twitter. Honestly, I just don't use social media anymore. Sorry to people who do occasionally reach out to us on social media, but I find myself. I feel better for not looking at it.
Yeah, it's a cesspit.
But twitch.tv/itgetsweird, that's a good one because we go there and we play video games. I'm in the last hurrah of Pokemon Fire Red Nuzlocke with Colin, and one of my plans during this winter is to play some games. I have a little bit of a lineup. We might be playing a Resident Evil game. Who knows? And if you really want to get in contact with us, one of the really good ways is itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. We read an email up front. You could be the next email we read on the show. We get a lot of good messages from a lot of great people who listen to the show. So shouts out. So if you want to contact us, that's the best way. Just let us know how we should refer to you. And we might read your email on the show. Send us a good story. Send us something interesting. But if you really want to get in contact with us and you really want to support us, the best way is patreon.com/itgetsweird. We have a $1 tier. That's the tip tier. You get the experience of supporting your favorite podcast at the tip tier, just giving us $1. Think of it as like the sort of, jar that sits in the coffee shop and you drop $1 into. Check that out. But if you want bonus content, it's literally only $1 more. $2 tier, you get It Gets Weird TV, where right now Niall and I are in season 3 of the X-Files. People get to vote on the shows that we watch. So next season it'll maybe be something new. Maybe it'll be season 4 of the X-Files. Who knows? You get to decide if you donate to patreon.com/itgetsweird. Then we have the $5 tier. $5 is not real money, I've always said, which is a phrase that's aging really badly, I gotta say.
Yeah.
But if you do have $5 to spare, that's the best bang for your buck. $5 tier, we have another show called World of Weird in the off weeks of It Gets Weird TV. Niall and I talk about whatever the hell we want. It's a great time. We get really deep into it. We straight up lose ourselves to the discuss. I straight up forget that we're recording a podcast when we do that one. So it's a lot of fun. And whether you donate to the $2 tier, the $5 tier, you get access to the main show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday on your own private Patreon feed, and you get access to the Discord where we're hanging out, chatting with our listeners just like you. That is the best way to get in contact with us, is donating at the $2 or $5 tiers on patreon.com/itgetsweird. But if you can't donate, we get it. Times are tough. Best thing you could do is airdrop our show to people, random people on the bus, random people at the bar. Just tell friends and family about our show. We spread via word of mouth. We're orally transmitted, so please do us a favor and tell people who you think would like the show. But tell people who you think wouldn't like the show about us. I want to get them on the show as well.
Yeah.
So please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird podcast.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for continuing to support the show. This has been It Gets Weird, and I've been Niall.
And I'm Kyle, and I'll see you in part 2 of Martin Cannon's The Controllers.
Peace.